Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. If everything that you think defines you, your job, your habits, your name, your past, were taken away right now, what would be left? Silence. That silence is the place where you begin again. That silence is the space where you rebuild yourself. We live in a world where noise defines identity, but when that noise fades, only one question matters. Can you sit with yourself and still feel whole? If not, then this message is for you. Destruction is not the end, but the beginning of transformation. To most, destruction feels like failure. It feels like the closing of a chapter, the falling apart of dreams, the undoing of all effort. But if you look closely, you will see something different. When something breaks, it reveals what it's made of. It exposes the foundation beneath the essence, and only then do you see if it was built strong or built to collapse. We are taught to avoid destruction. We are told to maintain, preserve, hold on. But there are times in life when holding on is what holds you back. A snake that refuses to shed its skin dies in its old body. A forest that never burns becomes overgrown and lifeless. Destruction, when guided by awareness, becomes a sacred cleansing. It makes room for new beginnings. It forces you to examine what matters. Many people resist this process. They try to rebuild on top of broken pieces without cleaning the ground beneath. They apply fresh paint over decayed wood. From the outside, things may look fine, but over time the cracks resurface. The foundation shakes. Why? Because they never truly began again. They merely resumed. Rebuilding yourself demands something deeper than patching up the surface. It requires the courage to say, what I was no longer serves who I must become. That takes honesty. That takes humility. Most importantly, that takes the ability to let go. Letting go is not weakness, it is power. The power to detach from identities, roles, patterns and beliefs that have expired. You are not your past, you are not your habits, you are not even your thoughts. You are the awareness behind all these things. And when you realize this, you no longer fear destruction, because you understand it is not the end of you, it is the end of who you no longer need to be. When a house is demolished, it is not to erase the idea of home, it is to make space for a better one. Likewise, when you allow certain parts of your life to collapse, whether relationships, routines, careers, or belief systems, you do it not out of bitterness, but out of vision. Because deep down, you know, something greater is possible. But transformation does not begin until destruction is complete. Many rush the process. They want to build the new while still clinging to the old. But the ashes of the old must cool, the ground must be cleared. Only then can the rebuilding be stable. This is why pain, loss and failure often arrive before growth. They are not punishments, they are invitations. They say, look here. This is where the truth hides. This is what must be faced. This is what must be released. If you listen, really listen, these moments become teachers. To rebuild yourself, you must not run from destruction. You must walk through it with clarity, with presence, with trust that on the other side is not less of you but more of you. The more conscious version, the stronger version, the version that no longer lives in fear of change. So when life shakes you, when the ground crumbles, when everything familiar falls away, pause, breathe, and instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this making possible? The answers may not come instantly, but the silence will speak, and from that silence, the first brick of the new self will be laid, not in fear, but in wisdom. Destruction is not the end. It is the invitation to begin again. This time intentionally, this time wisely, this time as the architect of your own becoming. Discipline is the chisel that shapes the new self. Without it, no transformation is possible. You can have vision, inspiration, even pain deep enough to move mountains, but if discipline is absent, all of it fades like mist in the morning sun. Emotion is fleeting, motivation rises and falls like the tides, but discipline is the current beneath the waves. It moves regardless of the weather. It does not ask how you feel. It acts because it must. When people speak of rebuilding themselves, they often dream of the end result, the strength, the peace, the clarity, the mastery. They imagine a version of themselves that is calm under pressure, sharp in thought, unshakable in presence. But what they fail to see is what this version is built upon. Daily effort, routine, discomfort, silence, and the relentless practice of doing what needs to be done, especially when it is least convenient. Discipline is not glamorous, it is not loud, it often goes unnoticed, uncelebrated. It is waking up before the sun. It is saying no when distractions call your name. It is choosing the harder path again and again, not for the sake of suffering, but because you understand this is what reshapes you. There is no shortcut through discipline. No one can give it to you. No one can implant it into your mind. You cultivate it slowly, steadily, like tending a fire. At first it flickers, you forget, you fall, but you come back. That return is the act of discipline, not perfection, persistence. Every time you return to the work, to the process, to the principle you've committed to, you strengthen the muscle of your mind. And that mind will carry you through storms your body alone cannot endure. It is tempting to wait until you feel ready, but discipline does not wait for readiness, it builds readiness. It teaches you that doing the work comes before feeling worthy of the result. You do not become disciplined and then act, you act, and through action you become disciplined. Discipline is also the highest form of self-respect. It says, I am willing to do what is required, even when no one is watching, even when no reward is promised. Because I know who I wish to become, and I refuse to betray that image. Discipline is the bridge between your current self and your future self. And the cost of crossing that bridge is consistency. There will be days you falter. There will be days your mind rebels. That is expected. But do not mistake resistance for failure. Resistance is proof you are touching the edge of your limits. And discipline is what allows you to press beyond that edge. Rebuilding yourself requires more than belief. It requires structure, repetition, self-control. It requires rituals that anchor you in your purpose, even when chaos surrounds you. Discipline builds that structure, brick by brick, action by action. And in time, you change. Not because one moment altered everything, but because thousands of small choices accumulated. Each one whispering, keep going, stay the path. That is the true power of discipline. It does not shout, it does not rush. It simply moves, quietly, steadily, unshakably. When you look in the mirror months or years from now, and you barely recognize the strength in your eyes, the calm in your breath, the stillness in your mind, remember this. It was not motivation that carried you there. It was the chisel of discipline, shaping you, day after day, into who you were always meant to become. Pain is the teacher, silence is the classroom. Most people run from pain. They resist it, numb it, distract themselves from it. But in doing so, they miss the most powerful lessons life has to offer. Pain, in its raw and honest form, is one of the few forces that can pierce through the surface and reveal something deeper within. It exposes the truth that comfort often conceals. And when you stop running and begin to observe it, pain begins to speak. It speaks not with words, but through awareness. It shows you where you've been ignoring yourself, where you've betrayed your values, where you've allowed habits or people or thoughts to chip away at your potential. It doesn't flatter, it doesn't console, it confronts. And in that confrontation lies the seed of transformation. Pain is not your enemy, it is your mirror. It reflects back to you the parts of yourself that have been neglected or broken. But it requires your presence. You cannot understand pain if you're always trying to escape it. That's why silence is the classroom. In silence, all distractions fall away. There is nowhere to hide. There is only you, your thoughts, your fears, your wounds, and the voice beneath all the noise. The modern world doesn't teach you to sit in silence. It teaches you to scroll, to binge, to chase the next thing. Constant movement, constant stimulation. But silence is where clarity begins. Silence is where healing takes root. In silence, you begin to notice the patterns, the loop of thoughts that cause your suffering, the emotions that rise and fall like tides, the tension you've been carrying in your body for years. None of this can be understood in noise. People often say time heals all wounds. But that's not true. Time only heals what you are willing to face in time. And facing something deeply especially something painful, requires stillness. It requires the courage to sit down, close your eyes, and simply be with what is. Not to fix it, not to judge it, but to witness it. That witnessing is powerful, because when you look directly at your pain with awareness, it begins to lose its control over you. It stops defining you. And slowly, quietly, it transforms. You learn to see pain as a message, not a punishment. A signal that something within needs attention, care, change. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And begin asking, what is this teaching me? That question shifts everything. Suddenly, even your darkest moments become part of your training. Growth that comes without struggle is shallow, but growth that emerges from pain, that is deep, that is real. It changes the way you move, the way you think, the way you treat others. It humbles you, it strengthens you, it makes you patient, and it makes you wise. But this wisdom doesn't arrive through force, it arrives through space, through breath, through silence. In silence you realize that the pain you once feared is not a barrier, it is a doorway to knowing yourself more completely, a doorway to compassion, both for yourself and for others who suffer, a doorway to rebuilding, not as a reaction, but as a conscious decision. So if you are hurting, sit, breathe, be still. The discomfort may feel unbearable at first, but with time, that discomfort becomes clarity, and that clarity becomes freedom. In the end, it is not the pain itself that transforms you. It is your willingness to sit with it, listen to it, and let it teach you. Pain is the teacher, silence is the classroom, and you, if you're ready, are the student. To rebuild yourself, you must confront yourself. Not the version of you that is shown to the world, curated and controlled, but the version that lives beneath the surface, where your fears, doubts, and hidden truths reside. That confrontation is not comfortable, it is not easy, but it is essential. Without it, all change remains superficial. You cannot build something strong on a weak foundation, and you cannot become whole without first facing what makes you fragmented. Most people want change, but they want it without discomfort. They want transformation, but not truth. They want to feel better, not necessarily be better. But real growth, the kind that reshapes your life, begins with a raw, honest look in the mirror. That mirror shows everything. The lies you tell yourself to avoid action, the excuses you use to justify staying the same, the patterns you blame on others but silently know are yours to break. These things are not easy to admit. The mind is skilled at avoidance. It distracts, rationalizes, minimizes. It creates stories that feel safe. But safety is not the goal. Growth is. And growth begins the moment you stop pretending. You don't confront yourself to shame or punish, you do it to understand. You do it to peel back the layers that have been placed on you, by society, by your past, by your own limited beliefs. So you can see what's actually there. You are not your mistakes, but you are responsible for them. You are not your past, but you must make peace with it. You are not your pain, but you must sit with it long enough to learn what it's trying to say. Confronting yourself also means questioning your identity. We become so attached to who we think we are that we forget who we might become. You may believe you are lazy, weak, angry, or incapable. But are you? Or is that just the version of you that was shaped by pain and repetition? The mind holds on to familiar stories because familiarity feels safe. But transformation is not safe. It's uncertain, unfamiliar, and often uncomfortable. It is in that discomfort where freedom begins. When you truly confront yourself, you stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop blaming the world for what is yours to change. You recognize that the person standing in your way is not your boss, your family, your past, or your circumstances. It's you. That realization can feel like a weight, but it is also a key. Because if you are the problem, then you are also the solution. It takes courage to turn inward, to sit alone without distraction and ask, what have I been avoiding? It takes humility to admit that you've been wrong. It takes strength to face the parts of yourself you've tried to hide. But in doing so, you reclaim your power. You stop being a passive participant in your own life and become the author of it. Self-confrontation is not a one-time event. It is a practice, a daily return to the truth, a willingness to remain open, even when it hurts. But with every moment of honesty, a layer falls away, and underneath those layers is the version of you that is clear, grounded, and capable of real change. To rebuild yourself, you must look into the darkness, not to become lost in it, but to bring light to it. Only then can you rise, not as a mask, not as a reaction, but as someone who knows who they are and who they are becoming. The world will change, your roles will shift, your path will bend, but the one constant you will always face is you. Make that person someone you are not afraid to meet. No one else can walk this path for you. That is the quiet truth many try to avoid. In moments of struggle, people search for answers, guidance, support, and yes, those things have their place. Teachers can point the way, friends can walk beside you, mentors can offer insight. But at the end of the day, the rebuilding of the self is a journey only you can make. You are the one who must take the steps. You are the one who must make the choices. You are the one who must carry the weight. There is a moment in every transformation when you realize no one is coming to save you. And while that realization may feel heavy, it is also deeply liberating. Because once you stop waiting for someone to fix you, you begin to take responsibility for your life. You begin to shape your own future not as a victim of circumstance, but as a conscious creator of it. This does not mean you must walk alone without support. It means the work cannot be outsourced. You can't delegate discipline. You can't hand off healing. You can't ask someone to feel your pain, face your past, or build your habits for you. Others may inspire you, but they cannot transform you. That part is yours alone. And here is the paradox. The more you own your solitude, the more powerful your connections become. When you stop leaning on others as a crutch, you start standing beside them as equals. You don't need anyone to complete you because you are becoming whole on your own. You don't need constant validation because you are anchored in self-awareness. From this place, you can love more fully, lead more clearly, and serve more authentically, because you are not acting from lack but from truth. Walking the path alone is not a punishment, it is a rite of passage. It is how the old self fades and the new self rises. In solitude, you learn to listen to your body, your breath, your intuition. You start noticing the noise you've been surrounded by and how much of your identity was shaped by it. In silence, without the pull of other voices, you begin to hear your own. And it is not always pleasant. Facing your mind unfiltered is often uncomfortable. You will confront fears you buried long ago. You will remember things you tried to forget. You will doubt yourself. You will want to run. But every time you stay, you grow. Every time you breathe through the discomfort instead of escaping it, you reclaim a piece of your power. This journey requires self-trust. The belief that even when you are uncertain, you can still move forward. That even when you stumble, you can rise again. And that you don't need every answer to take the next step. You only need the courage to take it. The path is revealed through walking. Insight comes through experience, not theory. You become by doing. And over time, something changes. What once felt impossible becomes routine. What once broke you now strengthens you. The silence that once terrified you becomes your sanctuary. Because you are no longer building a life based on reaction. You are building it with intention. With each step, you are shaping your character. You are defining your values. You are becoming someone you trust, someone you respect, someone you would follow. The journey is yours, not because others have abandoned you, but because this is what true transformation demands. It is forged in solitude, refined in struggle, and revealed in time. So walk your path, not because it is easy, but because it is yours. Rebuilding yourself is not about becoming someone else. It's about returning to who you truly are beneath everything that has been placed on you. Over the course of life, we all collect identities. Some are given to us, some we create to survive. Labels, expectations, roles, we wear them like armor, believing they define us. But eventually we realize the armor is heavy, and it is not who we are. It has kept us safe, perhaps, but it has also kept us small. True transformation is not about adding more. It's about stripping away the unnecessary, the pretending, the people-pleasing, the fear of judgment, the endless proving. It's a process of removal, not accumulation. And what remains when all of that is gone? That is the real you. That is the part of you that cannot be broken, the part that has always been there, waiting for you to remember. But remembering is not a passive act. It takes intention. It takes effort. You must be willing to look at your life and ask, what parts of me are real? And what parts were built to be accepted, liked, or protected? This is not about blaming the world or resenting the past. It's about choosing to no longer live a version of yourself that was shaped by fear. In this return to self, you begin to notice a shift. You no longer chase validation because you no longer doubt your worth. You no longer seek constant distraction because you are no longer afraid of what you will find in stillness. You begin to live in alignment. Your thoughts, your words, your actions all begin to reflect a deeper truth, not one that was handed to you, but one that rises from within. This is not ego, this is not arrogance, this is clarity. Clarity about what matters. Clarity about what you will no longer tolerate. Clarity about the kind of life you want to live and the kind of person you want to be. Not according to anyone else's script, but according to your own inner compass. And that clarity brings peace. Not a passive peace, but a grounded, powerful presence. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop trying to prove. Instead, you begin to express. You begin to share. You begin to serve. Not because you need approval, but because your cup is full and now it overflows. This is the essence of rebuilding yourself, coming home. Home to the self you were before the world told you who to be. It's not an escape. It's a return. And this return makes you resilient. Because when life challenges you again, and it will, you no longer crumble trying to protect a false image. You stand rooted in your essence. You bend, but you don't break. The beauty is, this self was never truly lost, just buried, under layers of experience, pain, noise, and programming. And when you begin the work of rebuilding, not from reaction, but from intention, you realize that you're not becoming someone new. You're simply becoming you, fully and without apology. So when people ask who are you becoming, let your answer not be a job title, a social role, or an achievement. Let your answer be something deeper. I am becoming who I've always been, beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the world's expectations. And from that place, everything you build, every habit, every relationship, every decision, will have roots. Because nothing is stronger than a life lived in alignment with the truth of who you are. Rebuilding yourself is not a single moment of breakthrough. It is a quiet, disciplined, often unseen process. A return to what is real. A confrontation with what is false. A journey walked alone, shaped by silence, guided by pain, and lit from within by a clarity that cannot be given, only discovered. This path will not always be easy. You will face resistance, you will lose your way. But each time you come back, each time you choose growth over comfort, truth over illusion, and presence over escape, you take one more step into the person you were always meant to become. You don't rebuild yourself for applause. You don't do it for recognition. You do it because you refuse to live a life of quiet dissatisfaction. You do it because something deep within you knows that who you are now is not all you can be. And that knowing, however faint, is the beginning of everything. So stand up, begin again, be deliberate, be patient, be honest, honor the pain, respect the silence, lean into the solitude, and trust the process. No one else can walk this path for you, and that is exactly what makes it sacred. The world does not need a copy of someone else, it needs you, fully alive, fully awake, fully grounded in your truth, and the only way to reach that version of you is to rebuild. Not someday, not when it's perfect. No.